Checking your bank balance is an act of faith. It requires trust that your bank has verified the validity of every credit and debit applied to your account. If there's a transaction that's not legit, you can't just open up your bank's database and change it. What you have to do is call the bank and try to explain and document the problem. Then you gotta wait several days for some tech geek to fix it. Everyone who has an account or transaction with that bank needs to be connected to that central database and rely on that database and that database alone for the true balances of them and everyone else. Now just imagine for a moment that there was no bank at all, but just a database on your computer containing a long chain of ownership of every dollar in your account, and you yourself could verify that the end of that chain for every dollar you have points to you, making you the legitimate and undisputed owner of every single one of those dollars. Now imagine that there were copies of that database on computers all over the world. Your identity would be represented in code, and anyone else could verify that those dollars belong to that code, but only you can connect that code to your personal identity with a private encryption key. So the number of dollars you have at any time would be completely verifiable without revealing your identity. Welcome to the world of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is like having your own bank on your computer that every other computer on the network can verify. Your Bitcoin balance requires no trust in any bank or unknown third party, only transaction data and math. In fact, it's not really a balance at all. Let's see how this works. You never really have a certain number of Bitcoins in your account. All you do have is a list of transactions that all point to your public key, which is an address, like an email address, that is related by cryptographic math to a private key that only you know. Anyone who wants to send you Bitcoins doesn't just send them like an email. What they do is lock them up in a public math puzzle locker that can only be opened by the legitimate owner of your public key. Proving that ownership requires possession of your private key, which only you have. To spend Bitcoins, you must prove that the money is yours by proving you are the true owner of the address where that money was sent. You do this using the public message that originally sent those coins to you, which is linked to your public key, and a private password or key proving that you are the legitimate owner of that address. Recall that the person who sent that money to you actually sent it to a math puzzle locker that only your key could solve and open. So there is no doubt that the funds were sent to you and that you are their legitimate owner. In this way, ownership of Bitcoins is passed along in a kind of chain. The validity of each transaction is dependent on all the previous transactions. Copies of the entire chain of ownership of every Bitcoin are kept on computers, also called nodes, all over the world in a database called a distributed public ledger. Because of the cryptographic link between the unique message and signature for each transaction, any change to the message, the amount, or the unique signature from who and to whom it was sent will result in an invalidation of the transaction at every node in the world, with no need for them to communicate with each other at all. So, invalidation is independent of communication between nodes, eliminating the need for a central database as an arbiter of truth. There is no need to ever call a bank because your balance is constantly maintained, confirmed, and updated by your computer and millions of computers worldwide. So Bitcoin is like your own personal bank.